Going Commando with Angela and Dana is brought to you by finduniquelyyou.com.
Everyone has a story. I have a story. You have a story. We all have a story. As I see it, you have three choices. Allow your story to define you, use it to excuse you, or utilize it as a method to empower you. It's your life. You have the power. You choose. Rewrite your story on finduniquelyyou.com. We're shedding our masks and breaking down walls. Hell, we may even drop our drawers. That's right. We're going commando with Angela and Dana.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this super special episode of Going Commando with Angela and Dana. And I'd like to introduce these two fine gentlemen who are here with us today. Chris and Brody have a podcast called the Professional Misfits. It's amazing. Check it out. Like them, follow them, listen to them, support them on Patreon and all that stuff. We'll give you all the links later. But we just wanted to hang out with these two handsome gents and shoot the shit and see what comes up. And so here we are. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, it's really weird, Brody. You say like two fine gentlemen, and like, who are they? Who the fuck are these guys? Like,
yeah, I was looking around for a second too.
none of that was in the brief. Like,
I knew she wasn't talking about you. That's for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
He is wearing a fine hat, right?
Yeah.
So the trademark
it's all brand.
hat.
It's all smoke and mirrors. Trust me. Thanks for having us, Angela, Dana. Thanks for inviting us on. Really cool.
Yeah, this is super fun. Okay, so for new listeners, Chris, why don't you give us a little overview of your podcast, where you are, and Brody chime in and where you are, and then we'll get into see where this goes.
Cool. So yeah, the Professional Misfits, we talk about like the B-sides of professional life. So funnily enough, Brody and I were introduced to each other via a mutual third for an original podcast who's no longer with us. So we're the updated and improved version, let's say. 2.0. But it was these discussions around, we're all on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the hype reel of professional success, right? And basically Brody and I are like, what the fuck is this? Like, no one's talking about relationships. No one's talking about sex, mental health. No one's actually talking about money. No one's talking about the struggles, or like, can we change career, post-COVID and recessions and disruptions and resignations and work from home and all. No one's talking about any of this shit. It's like, buy my course to earn 6 figures in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Jesus Christ.
Right. So I love it. So, and everyone rolls their eyes at the same time because you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, yes. and surely we know that all of these other factors actually impact us and the quality of our work, and no one's talking about it. And so Brody, full credit, like he was the guy that saw the niche for these sort of conversations about, well, why don't we talk about these things? Because rather than being advertisers to do an advertising podcast to other advertisers, why don't we talk to people, about professional struggles and what we're building and what we're not? And he after the first round of podcast fell through, Brody reached out to me about 2 weeks later. No, not even, like a week later, and said, I can't let this idea go, man. Like, how about you and I go for it? What do you say? Is that accurate, B?
Yeah. I mean, the first one, God, that was whiplash. I mean, so yeah, we had something going there, and I like Chris said, I felt like we were all on a mutual page, like me and Chris are now. Not the case. We got to that, and then seriously, I thought where we were at, me and Chris had communicated just completely aligned. This is where we're going. This is what we see it as. These are the conversations we want to have. And I couldn't let that go. I was like, this guy sees what I see. It's real. It's out there. I know people want to listen to this kind of stuff. And I just couldn't. Yeah. I came to him a week later and I said, Chris, I'm going to do this. I need you to come with me. And he said, all right.
It's awesome.
So far, so good. So far, so good. We've got season 1 in the can. That's what you guys would have listened to. So 10 episodes of season 1. We've just started recording our season 2 after a little bit of a break, which is double the size, double the fun. So it's 20 episodes and Patreons and Spotify's and YouTube's and all the platforms. So again, that's Brody's marketing genius of like, no, this is not just going to be a channel for fun. This is a business and this is how we're going to roll. So I'm like, all right, my man, I'll just wear the hat and look pretty. Okay.
Broedy.
I'm your Broedy.
Yeah. And that's probably where you girls found us. Because Angela, I remember when we chatted, you said you'd listen to maybe like episode 5, which was our interval of just shooting the shit, and then you'd listen to episode 8 on social media, and that was sort of when you reached out to me and said, just listen to episode 8. Do you want to come and have a chat? I'm like, yeah, sure, for real.
Yeah, so fun. So fun. Yeah, so Dana and I started Going Commando when, oh God, it's probably like last October-ish. We started it as an idea.
We were doing a show. We called it Cuddle Talk just because we thought the whole idea was that because I'm always like cuddle. Like if you're gonna cuddle, you cuddle, and it was so ridiculous. Like we like took it like to the full campiness, and like we were gonna like be in our pajamas and just chill out, and like people couldn't be at their desks, and we were going to interview people. And what we learned was we wanted to interview our U instructors. We wanted to interview people who had a story to tell. People who had, something uplifting and inspiring, because like you guys said, nobody's talking about relationships. Nobody's talking about like real stuff. And that's really where we are like, oh, these are the rules. This is how everybody does it. Well, we'll be over here. And, people are saying what they think people want to hear to get people to, purchase or whatever it is.
To buy their shit. It's a funnel, baby. It's a funnel. Yeah.
And Angela and I both, we're just like, just being who we are and throwing it out there. If the spaghetti sticks, it sticks. And if it doesn't, then you know what? I'll just take my spaghetti and go. You're not my people. So anyway, we were doing that with Cuddle Talk. And what we realized was the magic was really just us hanging out and talking about important topics, because it feels as if there are very few people out there in the world that are really willing to go commando, really willing to drop their drawers and not care if they look, if they don't look their best, if they don't have the filter on and 85 different shades of makeup and whatever it is to make them, to the masks, how they appear in the world. And we do believe that there is something so important and magical in just being who you are, because you're giving other people permission to do so as well, even in your shittiness. And this isn't a whole big book plug, but like I wrote book plug. That was weird.
You said it right the first time. It's okay. Yeah.
This is our first foursome, Dana.
But I
your best.
One of the books that I had written, it was the stories that I tell about myself are like so like it's like as soon as we published it, I was like, ooh, the world's going to see this. But be who you are. Be who you are. That's it. So anyway, that's the purpose of what we're doing.
And I was gonna. Did you think it was weird because like when Broedy came to me, and because this is Brody's background, he professional podcasts for millions and billions of people around, and for 10, 15 years or whatever it is, that's his jam. So he's coming to me with like, people want to hear this. And in my head, it's like, people want to hear what? Because this is just sort of who I am. And like, I'm the same dude pretty much on LinkedIn that probably swear less than I am here and in real life. So when Brody's like, no, this is what people want to hear. This is the secret sauce. I'm like, bro, I sort of had to trust him and blind faith walk into this with him, because I'm like, I don't really know the fuck you're talking about. And even if they do want to listen to it, like, who's going to pay for it, bro? So this is a real shift in perspective, or just something that I was unaware of. So I wanted to know if like you guys had a similar sort of experience in like building from ground up in that respect.
Well, I guess you're lobbing that to me, Dane. So,
straight under the bus.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my God, let me come up with something to say. I'm the business head of this whole thing. Dana's our mouthpiece. We never came at this with the intention of making this money. This is like an extension of our startup. So we have a startup where we help content creators turn their content into a monetizable workshop where they can truly interact with their audience and really engage with their own content in real time. And so Dana and I, Dana's books, book plug. Dana's books are, they've helped me grow exponentially as in personal and development. Like my husband says, you're not the same person you were before. No, I'm not. And I'm glad I'm not. But I don't think I would have had the same growth rate if it weren't for Dana's books and talking to her every single day. So every time we talk, I'm learning so much. So for me, the intention was, I want more people to learn from Dana. I want people to, because if you can just look at yourself with honesty and authenticity and just be like full commando, get yourself out there, then it'll encourage other people to do the same. I'll encourage other people to take the workshops, encourage other people to bring awareness to that there are humans out there who want to talk. And that's why I love you guys, because you're just straight talk. Like you're just like straight up real, giving your opinions, not worrying of who you're going to offend or whatever that might be. And that's kind of how we roll. So y'all are our jam.
That's nice.
Same. Listening to your guys' description of yourselves, that was kind of interesting. One of the things that I happen to say a lot is, some of the things we talk about give people permission to think in a different way, right? Yeah. It's not this box that you're stuffed in, and there's different opinions out there that you can fall into and you can explore and you can have a good time with even. So yeah, just be you.
Yeah. And it's not like, it's not like the political divide that I was stuck in, 3 or 4 years ago. Or I remember I said something about Biden or Trump to Dana, and she was like, "Who cares?" And I was like, "Oh my God, you're right."
Like, oh, that's where we are. Okay.
Admit it. I admit it. I was one of those. So, it's definitely about giving permission. So, and you guys doing this podcast, I guess it's kind of like how we're all together, because this is like the mission that we're on together, is to be authentic. But like, what has like the feedback been for you guys? Like, what has been positive? What has been negative? What has been tricky?
As far as I'm aware, we've only had one negative sort of comment.
Ooh, tell me. I love negative comments.
Look, I wanted to bury
Please
this.
Do, Chris.
Now we're here.
No. Dig it up, baby. Dig it up.
Do it.
Because you know it traumatizes me. All right, so it was literally it was
bad.
No, it wasn't even like I could wear that and go fuck off. You've got no style. Like next, but it was literally episode 1. So we've dropped episode 1, right? On YouTube, like here it is, blah, blah, blah. And the first comment, it might have even been, I don't even know if it was like after our pinned comment or whatever, but the first comment was like, wanted to like it, but bro culture was just too much. And like blah, blah, blah. And the Australian guy says like so often, and like, I really couldn't get behind it or something like this. And it, right,
detail.
So, it was.
Listen, they commented. We're like crickets.
No.
Well, that's what Broedy said, right? But like, and so by the time I found it on YouTube, because like I'm an artist first and a human second. So I'm like, fuck, and then like screenshot it and then kind of looked at it and like I messaged Broedy and I'm like, do we respond to this? Like, what do we do? And Broedy, exactly, almost verbatim, Dana's like, look, they watched it, they commented. It wasn't just like, fuck these guys. They listened to enough of it to form an opinion. Either way, they engaged. And I'm like,
Yep. They listened enough to hate you. You made it.
That's a good launch point.
Right, okay, it's a good argument. There you go. Everyone else who wants to start a podcast, if they're hating you on the first episode, So, and that's the funny thing as well. We had like 5 or 6 likes, but like just one negative comment. And then I'm kind of going through it. Do I respond? Do we not respond? How do we respond? Like, Chris, you're going to be passive aggressive. But I took a moment and I said, well, like, thanks. I think her name was, dummy account. So her name is Jane or whatever. It's like, thanks, Jane. Just curious, like, what does bro culture mean to you? And, what subjects can men talk about that isn't labeled bro culture? Because such
a twat.
Yeah, and well, just in regards to my previous email, just really trying to craft the perfect set. And funnily enough, no response. Now, to bring this story full circle, because this bugged me for weeks.
Oh my God!
And then eventually, I said to Broedy, I'm like, I know who this is.
Yep.
It was an ex.
No, it was the person that we originally did the first podcast with.
Of course it was.
So they're not watching and they're not paying attention, and you don't have any fans.
Or probably, yeah, that's it.
That might very well be the case.
or they were so jealous. You know, they just couldn't help themselves. Like, you went and did this without me. And hate the Australian guy. Like, fuck you. That's sorry. I just realized as well, I'm in a room full of Americans, so now I know what you feel like, Brody, because most of the guests
yes.
are Australian.
Oh my God.
I'm in Sydney, Australia. So if everyone listening at home, I'm in a completely different time zone. I'm in the future. You guys are scattered across 2 different time zones in the States yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of Brody and I's gimmick is like from Sydney, Australia, all the way to Portland, Oregon. Like 2 misfits on the other side of the world are going to discuss like all of these concepts. And so that's sort of part of our unique value offering for the folks at home.
I'll be sure to comment on your next podcast.
That's it. Couldn't understand his accent. Couldn't understand his accent. Do they even have freedom down there? Like what?
That is awesome.
Oh, it's so great. Well, you know what? The haters are going to hate, right? As
That's what they
Miss
say.
Taylor Swift says.
Motherfucker.
That's too much.
We always joke around how we have like 4 or 5 people that like us and comment on us. That's all we need.
You know what we need?
Angela, to 5 people, mwah, we love you.
Thanks, 5 people. Angela and I were just talking the other day how, like, I personally do a lot of I'm just trying to assist people in living the best lives that they could live.
Mm-hmm,
and I have this beautiful wisdom, and it's not because I'm so smart, even though I'll tell people that. It's because I lived in a dumpster fire and learned some lessons along the way and created this life. So I'm spinning what I think is gold. I'm like, oh my God, listen to all these smart things, and you can do these smart things too, and you can live this great life. And it's crickets. And then I'll be like, yeah, I stubbed my toe, and everybody's like, oh my God, how's your
Thoughts and prayers.
Oh my God, thoughts and prayers. I'm like, why are people afraid they're afraid to discuss things of value? Like I post all this artwork and I'll tell the stories behind it and really like the depth, the guts, and what brought me there. And crickets. And then somebody I worked with 10 years ago be like, oh my God, your hair looks great. I'm like,
sorry.
Yeah.
Brody, you can
every comment on yours. I could be like, nice hat. You'll see.
At least we've moved past that. I think no. Or if I don't show up in the hat, they're like, "Where's the hat and who are you?"
You're like, look at all this smart stuff.
I just found a different Australian.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's absolutely Brody. Maybe you can testify a little bit of this because we broke it down in the social media episode where I'm like, push it all into a furnace as far as I'm concerned. And if I didn't need LinkedIn for branding and sort of awareness and marketing and branding, then fuck it. No civilized person has these conversations. No one talks like this. No one walks into a room and say, unpopular opinion, but and rolls out 10 steps for. So
I want to say something positive because we've had the opportunity, all 4 of us, to be like dicks here for a minute. So I just here's how I see things. If we're talking in the microcosm and we're talking about an individual person, I know if I want to improve my life, I can't just walk around going love and light and thoughts and prayers and all that bullshit. I have to look at the darkness. I have to sit in the shit. I have to really, really just face it, let it all fall apart, the dark night of the soul and all that bullshit, right? And then I have to rebuild, and then life is beautiful. That's a microcosm. In the macrocosm, the world needs to look at itself. It needs to see the shitstorm that it is. It needs to break down all of the institutions that aren't working, and it's happening, right? Shit needs to crash and burn. It needs to be a bunch of toddlers kicking and screaming and throwing fits. You know who the toddlers are. You watch the news, or at least you are aware of people who watch the news. And then once all that crashes and burns, those who are ready to look at it and to grow from it are going to be ready. I honestly believe, and this is going to sound a little like, look at me or look at us, but I honestly believe that we do have what the world needs. We're saying what the world needs to hear, not necessarily what the world wants to hear. People just aren't ready yet. We're a little bit ahead of the curve. And as the world is crashing and burning, there are people popping up all over the place, people like us with something to say and changes to make. And there's more of us and more of us. Every shitstorm that happens out there in the macrocosm. And again, we don't have to discuss what they are. I mean, we live in it. I think I referred to it as a cesspool and one of our other.
I know, you're like fucking circus.
Like, don't sugarcoat it. Say it the way it is. But it is happening. And I believe people like us, if we keep doing what we're doing, not because we think we're going to make a lot of money and not because we think we're going to have a stardom or fame, but because we truly believe in what we're saying and doing, it will catch on. So this little pity party that we just have, just because it's fucking funny and it's stupid, is great. But at the end of the day, remember my name. Because, shit's going.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. And look, I'll say this. One thing that I told Chris is it's really hard sometimes to keep perspective, especially with comparison out there, right? Comparison, fucking thief, and people don't even know it. And look, we have about 20 loyalists, right? Every episode they show up, 20 people, view after view on episode after episode. And in any kind of business dynamic or, situation, 20 people in a room, that's a big fucking deal. That's a big fucking deal. And if you got 20 people directly listening to your opinions and your words and your you're making a difference there, and even if it was 20 people, what if that one of 20 was the next person to change the world? And what if, just by what if, one of the words that you said to them made their fucking life, and it changed everything for them. So that's really why we're here, right? Like those conversations don't get had, and people are scared, and there's no reason to be. I love the Going Commando thing. Like, just rip it off, like, let's fucking go. Like, we're here. We're ready to show up. We know we're fucking misfits. That's why we say we're fucking misfits, like, we're proud of it, and you should be proud of who you are too.
Yes. Amen. And for your 20 people who are listening, and for our 5, like engage with us, like tell us who you are. Like, let's just all become aware. So this is why I loved you guys, because I felt like you were synergistic to Dana and I, and just aligned with where we want to be. And so that means that our small little crew out there, it's like a, oh God, I'm going to do a Twilight reference. I'm sorry.
Chris.
I know.
Chris is holding his breath.
This is for my daughter, who is 18. But at the end of the day, you only needed 20 vampires to do a lot of damage. Yep. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. Look, for those who don't know me and sort of my background, so I'm, I guess, like an executive creative consultant, but basically wrote a book about it and advise boards and all these sort of people on the value of creative skills and intelligence. So book plug, everyone's got one. But to your point, it's sort of demonstrating that something like creativity isn't genetics, it's not personality, it's not luck, it's not circumstances, it's skills. So if you were to replace the word talent with skilled, for instance, it completely shifts the dynamic. You see like an amazing dancer and go, wow, they're so talented. You go, no, they're so skilled. Mm-hmm. And now you can start to apply this to problem solving, to innovation, to your ability to adapt, to emotional intelligence, to, all these sorts of things. So that's my argument to your point, Dana, of it's like, take a look at the circumstances that you're in, and then find what you need and develop the practical skills to do it, because it won't be luck. It's funnily enough, just to segue slightly, I posted only about 2 or 3 days ago on LinkedIn about mental health of all things, because something I'm candid. I care about 2 things: creativity and mental health, and I suffer from both. So the post was about how we talk a lot about mental health awareness. Like, I'm more interested in action and results. So what might a mental health work in progress look like? So look, in the last 3 to 6 months, here's 3 things I put in place, and it was doctors, meds, and exercise. And here's the 10 outcomes from all of that. And it was literally what you described. It's like, well, things aren't working in my life. I'm sort of okay, but not, and I could do better, and I'd like to do better, but I actually have to put in the work. And if you've ever had any sort of experience with, for anyone out there who's had any sort of experience with mental health, you know that finding the right GP can be tough, because that will, it's often a personal and emotional and delicate, vulnerable thing to talk about. And you might even not completely understand it yourself. So that's a very delicate gateway to negotiate. If you need to find a psych, another very delicate gateway to negotiate. If they suggest meds, which I was reluctant for the longest time, it wasn't something I went to straight away as a fix. And even then, after deciding to commit to meds, it was about pill number 8. Because the first 6 had side effects or didn't work or So you're a guinea pig and you have to maintain your sort of integrity and your drive to want to be better. And so now, having posted this thing a few days ago, I also replied to somebody else, I don't think I could have made this post 6 months ago. Because even though I was fine, now that you're sort of out of the woods and you can start to see the bright sunshine, you sort of realize how dark things were before, even though you felt, even though only by comparison. And again, no giant emotional breakthroughs, no eureka moments, no, God didn't touch me, angels didn't come, I didn't fall in love, just Chris did the work. Chris feels better about himself and is more optimistic and hopeful for future Chris. And that's what I can control. And so, to the point of this podcast and all these discussions, if I can share this with you guys, and if anyone at home listening takes any sort of value from that, then great. Because we're talking about the things that we don't talk about. Mental health is a massive one. There's a massive amount of shame that sits on top of all of this.
It's all shame.
And it's a real shame that that's the case. Whether it's within yourself, or you don't have a partner that you feel that you can express it to, or a family that's not accepting, or you don't feel like you have the resources, or whatever it happens to be, but conversation is free. And so here we are openly discussing these things, and I'm going to apologize because this is not the direction we intended to take the podcast.
We go where we gotta go. You needed to, you Dana?
It was funny because when we were talking about what what we could potentially talk about. Remember, I came on. I was like, I don't want to talk about that. That's stupid. No offense.
Yeah.
And you want that? No offense. But the one thing I said to Angela, I said, let's talk about personal accountability, because when you talk about personal accountability, that covers everything, and that's really where you're leading in. You're talking specifically about mental health, but at the end of the day, when we learn. And again, all our stories are different. They're all individual and unique to us, but they're all the same at the same time. It's a very interesting paradox, right? But it all comes down to personal accountability. When we're looking outward for the fix, outward for the guru, none of us are here saying this is how you need to live your life. We're here saying, let's just talk about how we live our lives. Let's ask ourselves the questions: what do I want? What do I need? Are my needs being met? Is this a rational belief system? Is this a healthy coping mechanism? Do I self-soothe? Why do I self-soothe? Do I believe everything I'm told on that box in front of me? You know what I'm saying? And when we start to really be accountable for our needs and stop blaming our mommy or daddy or ex or whatever it is, and realize that at the end of the day, we're responsible for ourselves to figure out what we need and how to get it, then life starts to get a little bit easier. You start to become a little bit more empowered, and the road begins to open up. You took responsibility for yourself because you went and you sought help.
Yeah, and I was gonna qualify, because this is something that Broedy and I have talked about a bit as well. It's at least you start the journey, and this is something else, because starting the journey and sort of knowing you want to be better, or you want to achieve or success, or whatever it happens to be for you, but also tapping into something that's going to sustain you when you're not immediately getting what you want.
Oh, immediate gratification.
Well, or anything, you know what I mean? If it was, let's say it was success or a career or even me sort of getting better, I knew it wasn't going to be overnight, because I've lived with it for the better part of 20 years. So look, I think I said to Brody, like I swim 3 times a week. Swimming's not the hard part. It's actually waking up at 6 a.m. and walking down to the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can get up at 6 when the sun's not even up and it's still black outside, which is it fucks with you psychologically. And they go, no, like grab my bag, pack my things. And by the time I'm on the street walking, I'm feeling great because I've done the hardest part. Walk all the way down to the pool, swim, a couple 100 meters, get back, whatever. But and this is like now over 3 months. And I was saying to Brody when I first started, he's like, let's talk in 3 to 6 months and see where I'm at. My motivation may have fallen off. I may have sort of given up and gone, this is fucked, it's not working, or whatever it happens to be. But I'm a big believer in that change begets change. And so if you start to, improve or alter one sphere of your life, then that will positively impact other spheres, or like at least it doesn't happen in isolation. The inverse is also true. If you negatively affect one impact of your life, it's likely to negatively impact other parts of your life. So just be conscious of that. But the discomfort, change is discomfort, isn't it? On all sorts of levels that you might not recognize immediately. And that's something that you have to have, I guess, a little bit of grace with yourself for. It's not something I'm strong at. Like I've got incredibly high standards. I'm incredibly impatient. I want all the things because I can have them and I'm smart enough and I'm capable enough and I want them now.
I
want it now.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And that's that artist mentality of like, I don't have to climb the ladder. I need to get to the top. So
it's a visionary problem.
Yeah.
Because you see clearly.
So it seems. That seems to be the last. Brody's nodding vehemently because he knows not just this, but I've got there's another project on the side. I've got stuff, but it's that problem of like, this is the big picture and I see it so clearly. So can you all hurry the fuck up?
Yeah. Dude, we launched our business like a year ago, and in my mind, I was building physical destinations of our schools.
I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about destinations. I'm like, she's out of her tits, man.
It's hard. It's very, very hard because I'm a visionary too, and it's very hard to really. Yeah, I tangibly feel the future. I tangibly see the possibilities and how to get there, and I see the steps to get there, and I'm just like, but come on, I just need I need the cash flow, I need the this, I need the that. So,
yeah.
We're learning to be resourceful.
It's interesting. One of the things that me and Chris talk about a lot, and I think this falls into accountability, right, is our strengths and weaknesses. Do you guys feel like that was an unspoken thing between you two, or did you guys have to go through a process of identifying, hey, look, this is what I'm gonna fucking do and this is what you're gonna do, so let's fucking figure it out? Because I'll be honest, I'm lucky as shit. I've been in startup after startup, team after team, agency after agency. I have never quite find the level of collaboration that Chris and I have, and it's just been so seamless. And I think that's the accountability piece, right? We both know who the fuck we are. We know where we're strong. We know where we're not. And sometimes there's communication between that, where it's like, hey, Chris, I'm not doing this. You're gonna have to take this over. And he's got it. He's got me. And same for him. There's shit that I know that he falls to me for. And I'm just curious. Did you guys have to explore that, or is that something that's just been kind of natural? Because it feels natural between you guys.
Yeah. So Dana was my pledge mom in our sorority in 1992. So
wow, awesome backstory. Awesome.
I was called Little Dana. I like literally worshiped the ground. This blonde hair, and if you could picture blonde hair everywhere, loud, boisterous at the club. I'm like literally bowing at her feet. Like I loved it. I know. Shut up. I
was like 21 and she was like 18. So that's like
that's the time. Right.
Superstar. It's ridiculous.
She was, and then like after my first year, she was gone. I was gone. We were off to the races. We reconnected on Facebook. And I apologize. I ninth stepped you. I was like, I'm so sorry for the way. She was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I'm sober. And then we just kind of like Facebook stayed connected. And then in December, this is all going to answer your question in a roundabout way, but in December 3rd, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Dana's my
I'm like
Rain
Rain
Man.
Man with dates. It's ridiculous.
I lost a baby, and I reached out to Dana. Like Dana and I had communication. And like 6 or 7 months later, I reached out to her and asked her to commission a painting. So I commissioned the painting. If you can see it over my shoulder, it's me and my babies. And so we just reconnected, and we did an intuitive guidance session, which is something that Dana does. And in there, I was like, I kind of have this idea for a business. And I read her this little paragraph, and she was like real quiet. And I was like, oh God, she hates it. I feel so stupid. Oh my God, it's Dana. And I feel so stupid, And she was like, you have to do that. Like, that's gold. Like, you have to bring this to fruition. So over the next, I immediately like bought the URL, formed an LLC, like did all those things, and then I still had a 6-figure job, like had the business or whatever. And Dana started talking about becoming an investor. Just I'm just going to give you money. I'll hitch my wagon to your pony, anytime, whatever. And so the relationship was that she was just going to back me and help me bring this idea to fruition.
And whisper in your ear. And just this guy back here.
Like if we were talking about how like in history, like if you think about people always had like their oracle, like the great leaders had like their witchy person, and Dana was my witchy person.
Yeah, I was going to Cyrano you. You know what I mean?
So, but I have this really uncanny ability, and just be careful because I'll probably get to you too also, where I slowly just get people to do things for me and to work with me.
My husband was like her IT guy for like a year, and he's told her not to the gate. And meanwhile, he's like, I will not. And meanwhile, he's getting checks in the mail, and he's like, I'm doing something for Angela. I'm like, you're working for her. Like, you not know that you're working for Angela.
Yeah. He's like, under no.
Fill out this W blah blah. I'm like, you work for Angela.
So Dana, all of a sudden, because she has a career, so I designed a platform for to people to teach, workshops. I have no education background. Dana is a career educator, and so she's designing my whole training program. And all of a sudden, where she's like under me, you know what I mean? Like not like so I was like she always said, "You're the founder. I'm over here. I'm doing my own thing here." And then the platform like kind of shifted. It kind of grew into a direction neither of us felt really comfortable. Like it got very metaphysical and very woo-woo, and it wasn't where we wanted to be. And it was just different. So then Dana had her books, and she decided that we were going to try to self-publish her book. And they were like, why don't we just become publishers? So we used our LLC. We created a publishing company, yada, yada, yada. That was going awesome. And because I'm the creative and she's the words, so like we're a perfect like advertising team, you know what I mean? Like she's an amazing copywriter, even though she doesn't understand any of the words, copy, assets, tactics. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But just tell me
what this. Okay, you want that? And I give it to her, but she starts talking like businessy. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, jargon.
So we had
Jargon, right.
In January, we kind of had like a come to Jesus with each other. And it was like she wrote me this breakup letter because she didn't want to do where we were anymore. And I was like, fine, if you're going to break up with me. Like it was like a whole thing. She told me to
fuck off in like 4 different emails and I'm saying fuck off. She's like, well, here's what I was thinking. And it wasn't really a breakup letter. It was like
as per my last email.
Yes, it was 4 different versions of as per my last email. And really, and this goes back to Brody's initial question, and I promise I'm going to let you finish, Angela. But yes, we work beautifully together and all that. But there was a lot of me saying, just cater to my strengths. You know what I mean? And that's really where that come to Jesus moment happened, because it was a lot of buildup of the things I do well, I fucking crush. Yeah, but 100%. The things that like you're kind of like that, like I need to be doing, like it takes such a joy out. I don't want, so I'm sorry. So continue.
No, so that was really what it was. It was basically like, okay, we both agreed where it was sucky, like where things were sucky that Dana was doing. We were like, yeah, that sucks. So that's when we pivoted our whole business. We dropped everybody, we cleared house, and we were like, okay, we are equal co-founders. I've got your back, you've got mine. No matter what, it is just the two of us, and that's all that matters. It's all that matters. Because I had, it was like my own shit, right? Like I felt bad, or I wanted to bring people up with us, or I gave people more responsibility than they were giving back. And that was my own stuff that I had to work through. And it used to frustrate the shit out of Dana because I'd be like, well, let's just hire him for a little while and see. I mean, so many.
He sucks. Fuck him. No. And she's like, well, and I'm like, all right, you've got to learn this. Breathe.
He's such a nice guy, and
yeah. So by us coming to the table and being total equals, and knowing that we always check in with each other now. What do I want? What do I need? Am I not getting my needs met? And I know now her triggers, and she knows mine, and it's much easier to help. Like, I want her to succeed for her. It's like, and I want to succeed for me too, but like I don't want to put her under stress, because we've been under stress and it sucks. It's like seeing your kids having a tantrum. You're like, it sucks. You don't want them to have a tantrum.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. It is very symbiotic, though. And I just want to expand a little bit on what Angela was saying about, wanting to bring everybody with us. There is this feeling like, yeah, we're going to get the instructors and the content creators, and everybody's going to have a part, and everybody's going to do it. And everybody around us is like, yay, rah, we're going to do it. But because we're such go-getters, and I'll just say it, because we're such go-getters, you wind up not leading the pack, but carrying the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Dragging.
Yes.
And finally, and I'm in charge of them, because I'm doing the You Instructor Ready Set Teach program. And I'm like, this is, so that the breakup letter, and it wasn't a breakup letter. It was
totally was a breakup. I'll read it to you guys. You're going to have to find someone to replace me letter. Those are her words.
It was like, I can't do it this way anymore. And so then what happened was, when we became like, I'm not the voice behind the curtain, I'm like, oh, I fired everybody. Yeah. Like, Angela gracefully and politely gave everybody an out, and probably 60% gave their out. And then I was like, I'm firing the rest of them. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. I said, you're in charge.
That's so interesting.
And here we are. Here we are, the two of us.
Me and Chris won't take anybody on right now. We've actually, low-key, we've had some talks with sponsors, people that look at the show.
So, hang on, you had some talks with sponsors.
Yeah,
I find this out weeks later. Like, apparently we had sponsors came to us, and Broedy went, nah. And then like only last week, I'm like, what? And he's like,
and this was actually episode 4, season 1.
Like, sponsors who are going to give us money. Like, we've only just finished season 1. And he's like, yeah. Did I not tell you about that? Like, you motherfucker. Please continue. Yeah,
it's just interesting. So it's like,
he was right, though. He was right. He was absolutely right.
Yeah,
and I would have done the same thing.
I'm really right.
And I trust him implicitly, but it was just like hilarious to find out like 3 weeks later. Like, oh no, yeah. Oh, we had 2. No, one, but 2. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, look, and that's kind of the relationship that we've had. And what I feel like is unique is like you guys kind of reached the point, that breakup point, right, with each other. Me and Chris had that third, right? Mm-hmm. And I watched Chris break up.
I broke up.
I watched Chris break up. And so I know Chris in that scenario now. And, vice versa, Chris kind of knew me, because there was a situation beforehand where I came really passionately to the conversation, and it was like, hey, I love you both. This shit means something to me. So I don't fucking need you, and I'm going to do this shit regardless. So if you want to come with me, let's fucking do it. If you don't, then I'm going right now. And right off the rip, Chris was like, no, I get it. I'm here. I'm going to stay for it. And again, third party, that was an attack. That was,
how dare you? You're going to abandon me. And I didn't think I'd be guilted like this. And this is toxic. And and it was actually their behavior which was driving both of like Broedy to say that, and then me eventually to go, respectfully, I'm going to have to step out of this arrangement. Like, if the two of you want to continue without me, I understand. Just like take my name off things and whatever. But if you want to continue, that's great. But I'm going to have to step out because I see this as a pattern of behavior that's going to continue. And exactly the same thing. Like, complete abandonment. Like, how dare you? You're leaving me, and this personal attack and everything else. And poor again, it's kind of comical because Broedy must have been with you. Broedy must have been with his kids or something somewhere. So to kind of give context, it was the day before we were going to launch. For fuck's sake, the day before we were going to launch. And we'd scheduled, we're all going to have the same LinkedIn post. We're all going to launch this thing and da-da-da-da-da. Like, I've got 3 different time zones. Great. We have an hour-long discussion. Great. This is what we're doing this time tomorrow. Great time. Let's go, team. 5 minutes later, other person gets in the chat, hey, instead of doing that, can we do this other thing?
Oh, God.
Which we don't. I love it.
In the chat, not the fucking video
in the chat.
Call. In the fucking chat, not the video call.
And Brody's already bounced because he's like, I got to do something with my kids. So he's out, and he's like, "Can we do this other thing?"
In my mind,
and I again, like, very patiently went, "We talked about it, and probably not. It's better to go the way that we decided for all these reasons because we talked about it." He's like, "But I just kind of feel like, and I saw someone else do this thing, and I really think that, blah, 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 blah." And by this stage, I said, hang on. But I even texted this, like, okay, I'm really frustrated and really annoyed and kind of pissed because we've just had an hour-long production meeting where there was consensus. The 3 of us all agreed. And now 5 minutes later in a chat, you want to throw all of this out to do something else. I don't understand. Can you please explain to me what's going on? I didn't think I'd be attacked like this. Like, what? And this wasn't the first time. There's been a series of sort of incidences. And the previous times it happened, I said point blank, is this going to happen again? No. Don't judge me on my past behavior. Like, okay.
And then it happens. We judge,
right? Yeah. Hey, but don't. No, it was even better. Like, don't judge me by my past actions. Judge my future self or something along those lines. I know, it was amazing. And I went, oh, I understand the principle, but okay. And we're friends. I'm trying to trust this. But then when this sort of happened, and this was it, and I could see this was always going to be the way, and it was always going to be a nightmare, and it was always going to be a struggle. And between Broedy and I, there was more management and maintenance behind the scenes of like lifting this person up, exactly what you were describing, Dana, of like trying to couch them, make them feel comfortable, have them in the right position, record the episode, assure them everything's going to be okay, and then so it was this shit.
It's too much energy.
It's ridiculous.
Way too
much. And 50 messages outside the chat and all this sort of thing, and I just very respectfully said, I'm out. And then 45 minutes later, Broedy picks up his phone again and he's like, what the fuck happened?
I had a great fucking time with my kids. I'm like, this is songs we're launching tomorrow. Fuck yes. And I get back to it and Chris is like, I'm done. I'll see you guys later. And the third party is like, yeah, absolutely the fuck not. Take everything down. Fuck this shit.
That was it. And then like immediately blocked us. Like, all of that, like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And then Broedy, I think the next day, like absolute pro, just checks in. He's like, hey man, nothing about the podcast. How you doing? I've never had this in any professional relationship, and we've never met. I don't know this dude because this other person brought us in together. And I went, that's a bit fucking different. I'm like, you know what? Actually, man, I'm okay. Like, it sucks, and I'm like, I'm really sorry to put you in the middle of this. He's like, no. Like, this is. She made choices and everything else. Like, I get it. Like, it's a shame. Is there any chance the 3 of us? And I'm like, there's no way. Like, and you professionally have enough expertise to know this is never going to fly and it's not sustainable.
Right.
And so that was sort of that. And then 3 or 4 days later, he texts me again. And he's like, hey man, can I run something by you? And so here we are.
Awesome.
Both stories just correlate so well with the accountability piece, right? Like all of that took and the sitting in the shit, right? Like each one of us had to sit in some different shit for a minute to realize the what we were going to pull from it. You know,
actually, B, if I hadn't have broken up, do you think we would have got through season 1? Because I don't think I've asked you that.
No. It's you nailed it. You know, and same thing to Dana. There needs to be an equal exchange of energy here, right? Like, and I need to feel it from you too. And that was one thing with the third party. It was a drain. It was a constant drain. It was, you know, having to maintain and build and do these things for someone else when, you know, you've got your own shit too. Like, it's not just this podcast, you know, like I've got what kids at home
and what are you bringing to this relationship? So something I think we've talked about, and then we've only just talked about recently when we recorded, like on like, are we a good business partner? What makes a good business partner? I think it was episode 1. And it was skill sets. Complementing skill sets is part of it. Diverse and complementing skill sets. If you want to open a restaurant, you don't want to hire 5 chefs, right? You need 1 chef, you need someone in front of house, you need an accountant, you need this sort of thing. But it's also, what do you know, a chef actually cooks and brings something. And whoever runs the front of house, you know, hires staff, like managers, they bring something of value or contribution, not just, sure, everyone's going to have days where they need to take a little bit more, but like, you've got to bring something if you want to build whatever it is you're building. And I think this other person, I mean, to be fair, technically, she didn't bring anything other than maybe an audience. And
that was
honestly, because right. So like to be candid, like Broedy is back end. So all the algorithm, all the platforms, he's the guru that understands how all that shit works and how we splice up content to make it work. So that's his bag. I designed all the pre-production. So episode theme, every episode run list, this story arc, the journey, all the guests, all the topics, tend to drive most of the episodes, built the landing page, all the front end sort of stuff and design. Said third person, looking at it now, was the spare wheel, which was interesting because they were the one to bring us in.
Because they saw what you guys had to offer. They saw what you could do for them.
I know. Just you talk it out loud, Chris. It's
potentially, and that's what's interesting, because like, had they been maybe a different personality or could manage us better, maybe we'd all still be.
No, that was self-management. No, that was self-management.
The thing that Angela and my takeaway with every experience we've had, and I have to tell you, and just in all fairness, you know, we haven't had all this drama, like because you have one person, you had drama with this one person. We just had a lot of people that said they wanted something that said they wanted something, but weren't willing to work at it in the way that we were willing to work at it, and it was incompatible. That was probably 80% of it. But there was 20% drama. There were dramas here and there, and
it was the being blocked and stuff.
And at the end of the day, it kept going back to, we have everything we need. You're talking about complementary skill sets. I always talk about the Venn diagram, right? And so where it crosses over, we have similarities and it's beautiful, but where we're different, it's completely complementary. And we are in Angela told you the story, how we got here, but we have such this beautiful dance. Angela's like, I got to do this, and this. I'm like, tell me what you need from me. She's like, I need this, and this. She lobs it over. Boom, pass it back, and we get it done. And it's really turned into this beautiful, fluid, symbiotic dance. And we do have our worries and concerns because, again, we're building the foundation of what I see to be an empire ultimately. But when you're building it, it's not an empire. So you have to have faith in that it's an empire. But when I get into my logical mind, instead of my emotional mind going, I want to buy bananas today and I can't. But when I get into my logical mind and say, wait a minute, what are the components that create success? Okay. Do we have these things? Yes. Do we have drive? Do we have a respect? Do we have integrity? Do we have all of these things? Do we have skills? Are we just plain awesome. We're all of those things.
Yeah.
So all you need is stick-to-itiveness, determination, and just faith. And it has to be successful.
Yeah, and I'll chip in there because that's exactly right. And for us, also to highlight that capital and money isn't a factor. Because well, for us at least, for where we are at the moment, because we've built what we've got so far in almost $0. It's like the cost, like on whatever the cost of the landing page is, and whatever the cost of Broedy, Spreaker subscription in Riverside to record on. That's it. Like, so, and our whole pitch from the beginning was like, no, listen for free and watch us build. So literally we'll go from scratch to building this thing out. Season 2, we launched Patreon to go, hey, let's see if we can gain some revenue. And there might be an ad spend to promote this and that. But, again, like nominal. It's not a case of we had to save the nest egg. So now then I'm allowed to go do the project. Yeah. It's like, you can put that barrier in front of you if you want to. And that's okay. And certain businesses might require that of you, but something like this doesn't. Or if you're savvy, or if you start connecting with the right people or building those sort of relationships, you'll find ways around it. So just for everyone sitting at home thinking like, well, I couldn't do that because, and it all sounds really difficult. Like, shit, it might be, sure. Like, figure out what it's going to be for you. But saying that you don't have the time or the money to do it that's an excuse.
Yes. Yes.
100%.
And even though on the front end, we put a lot of money in, we have learned since, oh my God, probably close to a year, but we'll say very, very much since January, that we keep waiting. I always think of like Jesus with the loaves and the fishes. Like, fish just keep showing up. We're like, okay. We're like, okay. We have
just enough.
Just enough, right? Right? Like, do you remember by January?
I was like, Dana, if we don't have money by January, we are fucked.
And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, look, there's another loaf. It's got a little mold on it. But it'll feed us until July. And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing too. Falling back on permission, I think one of our biggest things in building this and talking about these things and going through these things in public, because this is pretty transparent. This is, this is a level that not a lot of people are willing to go to. And as we do so, to have kind of practical applications for everybody following us along the way, that's the ultimate goal, and whether that's mental health, whether that's building a podcast, whether that's putting content out in the world, we're going to be an example, a pillar for you guys to understand that this can be done, like this can be done. And it can be, and look at, man, this can be done by two guys all the way across the world, like imagine if you had your best friend in your fucking office, like you can do this shit, so that's where we're at too. And it's just such a cool theme to feel this throughout that episode.
That's awesome. It's awesome. And I think that that's like an awesome way to wrap this episode up because, I feel like I could sit and hang out with you guys for hours. So we'll come on your show next and we'll hang out with you guys there. But before we close it out, Chris, do you want to give everybody a couple little sound bites of where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, thank you. So we can find the Professional Misfits on YouTube. Just search our name. You can find us on Spotify. Just search our name. Patreon. Search our name. Or you can go to promisfitspodcast.com and you've got all the goodies and info and all the things there. You can find me on LinkedIn as Christopher S. Sellers, or you can find any of these crazy kids and we'll be connected. So there you go. Or you can find the Professional Misfits on LinkedIn and Facebook because that's where we have all our discussions and you get to vote on episodes of what you want to hear and what we're going to riff on and all that sort of fun, interactive stuff, which is part of why we do this because we want to do it with an audience, with our team, with our misfits to go like, what do you want to hear? What should we talk? What aren't people talking about? Let's get into it. That's our whole jam. B, did I miss anything?
No, I mean, find me there too. That's the link I always give is the promisfitspodcast.com.
Me too. Yeah, I'll put up the links. We'll put it into the chat or comments or whatever. And I just wanted to thank you guys for spending a Wednesday morning / Tuesday evening / Tuesday afternoon with us.
It's a global, international conversation.
How cool is this, though? I mean, like
thanks
seriously,
for having us.
How fucking cool.
Are you guys aware, like, do you know where we are?
New York-ish?
Angela's New York, and I'm in Florida. So we are literally like, in the U.S.
We're covering the U.S. because I'm in Oregon. I'm on the West Coast.
Yeah,
so,
and I'm
we
like
are
as
literally
southeast as you can get. So
yeah.
And to end it with, to your point, Broedy, about how anybody can do this. All this took was me saying to Chris, who I thought was pretty cool on LinkedIn, I connected with your content. I felt your authenticity, which to your social episode, I think episode 8, you guys talk about that, like being authentic on social, and it is really hard to find them. But I feel that in you. All it took was me saying, hey, I have a podcast. It's not like you never asked me how many followers we have. You never asked me what it could do for you. Yep.
Maybe I should have.
We love you.
We love you guys.
I'm taking notes of everything I should do for next time.
No, but it's like, it was just a matter of me saying, like, not worrying about what the fuck you were going to say. If you said no, but all right, cool. You know what I mean? And here we are having this conversation. We're all now going to be BFFs. Like, I'll be totally bothering you and telling you bad comments on all your stuff. Just
nice.
to fuck with you.
Yeah. What's this bro culture?
Do you mind? Can I just toss in one nug before we go?
Go for it.
A little nug. Because, Chris, you said something probably 30 minutes back that was swimming in my head, and I just want to comment on it. You're talking about the discomfort of change. And I got to tell you, and this is for everybody, and I think it's important, the discomfort isn't in change. It's in the resistance to change. And
you think so?
I think so, because when we release the fear or the fear of what we don't know, or the attachment to what we once had, the change is not so scary. Again, it's the fear of what's to come, and it's the attachment of where we were. But when we let go of that resistance, change can be welcomed. So I agree with you. Change is uncomfortable, but I want you to think about the resistance to it, because when we start thinking about these things and questioning ourselves and our whys and where it comes from, life becomes a little bit more entertaining.
I'll take that bet, and I'm going to end it with a final book plug. Because in my book, like Applied Creativity, there's an entire chapter dedicated to emotions and risk, and how the two are linked, and why we associate creativity with, like, creativity equals risk. And I break this down and go, that's not quite true. There's the unknown, which, at immediate glance, the strangers across the hill might kill us. The berries might be poisonous. All innovation is expensive. You go, that's not exactly accurate. That's an emotional reflex to something you don't immediately recognize. And so by developing emotional maturity and intelligence, you can start to discern between a risk is something that can kill me, or or creates a threat, or costs a lot of money and is not a good investment, as opposed to this is different. This is new. I'm somewhere I haven't been before. This is someone I haven't met. This is something I don't understand. Those are two very different worlds. But for the layperson and the average CEO who's going to invest $100 million, for fuck's sake, seldom can discern the two. So I'll leave that there, but challenge accepted.
I have a book too, It's as profound as you motherfuckers, but I do. It's called Uniquely You, update number 52.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
You're so smart. But Chris, I want to challenge you to a duel.
Anytime.
I would like, Angela, if you're up for this, I would like to have a whole showcase on Uniquely You Update 52. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
I would like to read your book because I feel like we say some of the same things, but in a different way. And I would like you to read 10 Rex. You could follow up with its sister, but I would like you to read
Chick culture. I don't get her accent. Like, they hate men.
It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. It's really because what you're saying makes total sense, and what it's and what you.
Thank you, Angela.
I don't want to go off on like a whole tirade, but I think it would be cool to have another conversation with the alternating views of really the same topic.
That sounds great. Great. Where can I get a copy?
Me and Angela can step in and read them both.
Yeah. We will put the links in so all 25 of you who are watching can also purchase the books. Let's have a book club. Let's do a book club.
I've just realized, are you and Broedy wearing the same glasses?
Broedy.
I got a little sparkle of metal.
I have to get a hat.
Twins. Twinning.
All right. People have had enough of our nonsense. Thank you guys so much.
Angela, Dana, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure, guys.
Thank you for watching this special episode with Angela and Dana going commando with the Professional Misfits. Chris Sellers and Broedy Ipox are amazing guests, and it would be awesome if you can support them at promisfitspodcast.com. You can support them by signing up on their Patreon page or following them on social and helping them build their podcast in public. Angela and Dana can be found on finduniquelyyou.com. Go there for enlightening content on how you too can become an empowered, happy, content, amazing person. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.